All right. Welcome to Inside the Barrel episode. Let's go with 12. I don't know. Where John and I take you through some of the technical parts and behind the scenes of working in consulting on the ServiceNow platform. The last few episodes we've been talking about the UI, the Now UI framework, and using React for it and building these reusable web components. And so we wanted to throw in a bonus one. We gave an action packed one last time. This one's going to be a little shorter because we're going to show you taking. We talked about custom event handling. So we're just going to take you through how you would potentially do a custom event handling, and we're going to take you through loading a new another ServiceNow component or another component of yours. So you can get some standardization going. So yeah, let's jump right into it. If that's what you want to do, John.
Yeah, let's do it.
So if you want to screen share. Are you screen sharing, John, or am I screen sharing?
Do you want to? I have no preference.
Yeah, let's change it up. I will screen share.
Sweet.
Yeah, let's do this.
So, you guys get any rain out there as of late?
I did not. It maybe in the evening it like showed up, but let's see. Man, you totally threw an audible for me. So, all right, we should be good. All right. So, like we get to see my beautiful screen, and we're gonna throw this over here. So, and we'll get this bigger so we can see what's going on. Did that work? Nice. We'll move this over here so it's not in the way. All right. So this is our famous little module we've been building. And pretty much a couple things that we added here. So the first one is on how do you include a component. So what we've done is we imported another component that exists, right? So if you let me bring up ServiceNow's documentation on this. And bring back my full screen. The ServiceNow guide. We'll throw that back. Man, I don't know how you do this so well. So if you are on ServiceNow's website, there is this like component section, and pretty much what this means is these are all the components that are available that somebody else already built that you can bring into your system. So like you don't have to build the button, right, every single time. You can just import the button, right? So what we're doing here is we're importing this so that it's now usable as a component. In order to actually import it, you do need to npm install it. So you'll notice in my package JSON, I will have
21.
no button. Did I see it? Yeah, the now button, right? So you do see that someone, had it. And so to do that, you would do npm install at servicenow/now button. And if you had published your component to, npm, you'd be able to use a component from a different project. So this is mostly good distribution model for ServiceNow. Like if you're like internal, you may need to have either an internal, I don't even know if they support private npm packages. They may be able to, but you would really want to make sure your component's super generic if you're gonna, publish this thing. So you'll notice that it installed it and thus now enables me to be able to import it. So once you've imported it, you then can just pretty much call it like as if it was something that would exist, right? So now button, and that button supports certain things, right? So in this case, this button is just going to fire an event. And what this will look like now if I do my development. Let's see. Profile T. I haven't used this in a while.
See, it's not all fun and games when you're on the hot seat.
Yeah. All right. I gotta make sure that my profile is set up. Gosh. And I gotta do it off screen.
Yep. No, let's all see your password.
Yeah. I gotta remember what's my dev instance. Got so many of them.
Oh, right.
Login, dev. What else do I need to do? Username, admin, password. And now I gotta get this password.
So speaking of passwords, what's your favorite password app? I know we had this discussion the other day.
I'm a Bitwarden fan. I used to be a LastPass, but I totally switched to Bitwarden. Mostly because it's only like $1 a month if you pay for the premium, and you don't even need to pay for it. So pretty much when LastPass had that weird thing where you have to pay for mobile or desktop, I like abandoned ship.
I totally can understand that. For me, I am still using LastPass because I can do family vault, where I can have so many accounts for the family, which is quite helpful because no one in this house seems to be able to remember passwords.
Yeah.
And so I'm always like, Dad, what's my password? I have no idea. You are in charge of your own passwords.
Yeah, I do think that it supports family now. I don't know if Bitwarden always had family, but I think it does. So let's see if my local host is coming up. Not yet. I wonder if that's that same issue that you had where
mine was port 3000, unless you've got something running on 4000.
No,
try
I'm
5000.
thinking that I'm thinking that sometimes its proxy server just like fails for the first time when trying to run it. I don't want to ditch it yet. Oh, okay, ditched it. Sometimes running this one the first time. Let's hopefully it's just the first time thing. Yeah,
there you go.
Yeah, it's weird. Sometimes the first one like struggles, but cool. So this is building all these beautiful modules. And after it's done compiling, it should like us. Oh, probably shouldn't have requested it while doing it. That's okay. Come on, buddy.
I think you need a new computer. You should tell Cash to get you a new Mac.
Yes, I actually have. It was denied. Yeah, but I'm really cool, and I want to buy like one of those new MacBooks, and I'll just figure that out when that happens. All right, let's see if I can
you
get past
could
29%.
You could get into a what are they called? Those little the little Mac computers.
The Mac Minis or the
Mac Mini. You can get one of those for fairly cheap. Even the new M1s, you can get those fairly cheap.
Yeah, I think that's nice. I mean, it's nice because it's like portable-ish, right? As long as you have a screen somewhere.
Hey, you can get those. Have you seen those USB portable screens everybody's getting these days? The portable ones.
Yeah, I do have one that's like actually nice. It's just a screen.
Yep.
It's not. It doesn't replace what I currently have, but it is definitely nice. Someone should tell ServiceNow that their styling is greater than 500 kilobytes. and Babel doesn't like that.
How can you have such a huge style guide? Woo, that's
all
good.
right, so we're up, right? And so notice this is that button, right? And you
There
can
you
see
go.
the difference between our two buttons, right? We just used the HTML button, and that kind of came with it like no styling. But this one, allows you to, stylize it, and all your buttons would look the same. So that's kind of the beauty of this, bringing in reusable components like a button.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the next thing we're going to do, so that was pretty much it for the importing a component. So any of those components on those guides, you should be able to import. The next thing we're going to talk about is this this button. Like when it is clicked, it's gonna fire it's gonna fire some things off. And so yeah. Oh.
Do you need to add the on click to that button?
Trying to think, what did I do here?
Like if you remove the on click from the original button, the button click function.
Oh yeah.
Well, that you can basically just switch it, right?
Yes. Yeah. I think what I did though, I'm trying to think like, what did I do for this situation? Because
fire event right there.
Yeah, so this is what's gonna fire an event, right? And yeah, okay, cool. So ServiceNow has some of these out of the box action handlers that you could potentially utilize. So rather than us, how we had to create this like on blur pass input, and then we had to, define what this like this action was. ServiceNow has some, built-in ones that say, hey, if the now button is clicked, this action is clicked, like we're going to go and fire off this fire event. Right. So
let me stop you right there real quick for a question. If I have multiple now buttons, how do I unique them? Because right now it says now button click, but if I have multiple now buttons, would that fire anytime any one of them are clicked?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm not gonna lie, I copied this from Brad and from ServiceNow's demo to show this, right? Because remember, I was just trying to show this in unique event handling, right?
Sure.
Like this is a good question. I'm more focused on like, how does this part work in ServiceNow?
That's fine. Maybe we'll have to have another. Well, maybe we'll have to have another bonus episode.
Yeah, you're ruining my bonus episode. So yeah, the goal here is we're trying to create a custom event handler in ServiceNow. And so we have this button. When that button is clicked, right, this now button is clicked, we're going to fire this event. And all this event is going to do is going to dispatch this event with this event payload, and also tell us that, I've been clicked, right? So, so when I click, if I inspect console here, so we know that it works because that I've been clicked shows up, right? So I've deployed this already, but if you just did a deploy, what you have to do is actually on the UI builder side in the platform, define that custom handler. So if I go to UI builder, just to kind of show an example, maybe ServiceNow will give us some super fast dev instances one day too. Wouldn't that be an interesting business model? I think as a developer, I would pay for a higher performing dev instance if I use it every day.
Could you get Cask to pay for it? Because I don't know that I would pay for it personally.
Yeah, I mean, it really, you're right. It's probably too much. All right. So this event category, right, is essentially what we want to to be able to configure, right? So it's saying I'm in global. So let's go back to global, or it says I should be in global. But the idea is we want our component to have, custom events, right? So if you looked at yours, John, you would see that that one isn't there for you, right? Like it would be empty for you. So what that means is actually, let me just deploy it so we can go through that whole process together. That way we could see that it's blank. Let's see. While that's deploying. So where we have to go is there's a thing called UX events in here, and you have to define whatever you dispatch. So whatever this code is dispatching, you have to define that UX event here, right? So you remember how ServiceNow I said had a couple out of the box ones, right? Like there's some ones that already exist on here that I was reusing in that one example. But so on this event fired, right, you switch to the right scope. And you just need to make sure that the event name matches this exactly. And the label, it doesn't matter. The label is what's going to show up in the UI builder. So let's delete this just to show how this is done. We're going to refresh this because I've probably deployed already. And so you notice here, there's no events configured, John. So no events are available here, right? But if I go and create a new event, event fired to, just to make sure you can see event fired, you'll know that it still won't show, but that's okay because we haven't attached it yet. It still won't show, but you then go to component definitions, and then you go to the component that you're, like in our case, it's this one. So we go to our scope tab, our simple report. And on the bottom here, there is this dispatched events. So now I put in event fired and I save this. And now if I refresh this, you'll see that that event fired to is here. So then the next question is how do we get the payload out of this, right? So we fired the event, we're able to do it, but now it's like we want to make sure that we can actually do something with it. And you'll notice here when you delete things, you have to be careful. Like this is left over from, before. And so like, I don't even know what table that relationship is, but I'm just going to delete this component real quick so that we can just show it. Oh, let's create a new one. New simple report. So here's our component. Here's our event. So our event's firing. But if you just, if I click save and I open this, you'll see here if you try to, do this, it's not going to actually do anything, other than the I've been clicked, right? But we want to know, like, we want to do something with that data sometimes, right? Maybe this fired event is going to, pass some information later. So this is where you would add a new event here. And this is where you change from being your customized built widgets to being able to allow the developer to configure what the component or the widget is doing. So this is kind of taking those parameter options to the next level, right? So you're creating generic parameter options and then have the widget do certain things based on these things. So we haven't really talked about UI Builder in any of ours yet, but what we essentially have to do is create a client script. So the client script is going to say, go get this, when something is fired or when this is called, essentially, go get that event payload, right? So it has the ability to call event.payload, and then the name of that. And if you remember, that's the name of this event payload as well. So what we could do is, set state to something, right? If you did have some state or you wanted to do something with the state, right, you can, set the state. In this case, I just want to show that we can retrieve that data. So if we, the first thing you do is create that client script, and then you go to add a new event handler, and you find that the client script is there, and then you click add. So now what we should see is when I click that button, and something in the console log should show. I cannot believe this worked. So that's essentially how, when you build a component, if you wanted to pass information from this payload after this event's dispatched, you can do so. And then you store it on the client side, and then you manipulate it, or you set the state, or you do things like that on the UI Builder side of things. And that's really that's it for the bonus, right? We showed essentially the now button, right? So importing other components, and then we showed what that component looks like and how it's being utilized, and the guide shows you that. And then when you dispatch an event, essentially how can you catch that on the ServiceNow side? By going to the UX events, right? You creating the event name that matches, and then you go into your component and you configure the dispatched events for that component. So I'll stop sharing. So thoughts.
Seems like a lot of back and forth.
Yeah.
Like you're over in code, you're back over in the platform. Again, I know we've said this a number of times, but it feels like it's a totally different paradigm than current portal work, right? Because really, if I bring it through SNUtils and work inside VS Code, I'm in one place almost exclusively, 99% of the time. That's where I'm at. And so again, it's just one of those things you'd have to get used to when you start building out UI components and working, that stuff versus a portal.
Yeah, I do think it's really
project.
in its infancy for sure. Like I think, so when you deploy your component, for example, it's deploying the actual records on the table, right? So there should be some format or some way in the future for you to define that in your component. And then when you deploy it, those things are there, right? Because ServiceNow does that for you. Like they somehow are able to also, when you install this, deploy that record. I just haven't seen how you can do that via the code yet. So it looks like we're just in this early stage, right? Of eventually it's going to get there where you pretty much just work on you have a team dedicated to building components, and then you have a team dedicated to building portal experiences utilizing those components. So it shouldn't be every day that you need to build a new component.
Right.
It should be that you use these core foundational things, and it's plug and play and then configure. So I agree. I do hope that you have this division that you're able to complete all of your work in one area, right?
Sure. So. Yeah, makes sense. Well, cool. That was kind of neat. Seeing how you can grab those components. And is that component library, can anyone add to it, or does it have to go through some system to get approved and added or whatever?
Yeah, that's a good question. So ServiceNow's GitHub actually owns all of those components.
Okay.
And so they own the ones that are available today. There is an approval process on the NPM side, but there's nothing stopping you and I from going to a Git repo, building a component, and then deploying it to the store. it just wouldn't be at ServiceNow slash, right? It would be,
Sure.
at Cask and then, the name of this component. Like if we said that the now button sucked, right, then we wanted a better one, like we could, create our own component and, deploy that and use that in all of our UIs. Um, so.
Okay. That's good to know for those out there who are contemplating building components and
Yeah.
having them
Yeah, it's
available.
interesting. Like I I get the the framework and it's awesome and it's powerful and it's definitely, the 10-year looking in the future, right? To be able to
Mhm.
build web components, because this isn't just React specific, right? You can swap in whatever, library for web components you want in the future. It's just, at some point, almost all of the core components would be built. And then the goal is just for you on UI Builder to like configure them in such a way. Um, and so that's the biggest shift that I'll see in the next years is less people building custom widgets and people more building beautiful experiences through the similar components.
Yeah. And this reminds me, and I'm going to say the word and you're going to gasp, but it reminds me a lot of SharePoint development.
Mhm.
Um, and so when I used to do SharePoint, it was kind of the same way. There was a lot of components already built into the system. But you could customize and do all kinds of new experiences with those. So,
Yeah, cool. Well, if you like this content, feel free to continue to subscribe. We wanted to make sure we got this bonus one out here. I think this would complete our series of, UI components. I think we'll do another one on UI Builder. So actually using these components, I think is kind of the next step in how to, quickly build experiences. So, thanks
okay.
again. Have a great day.